सदा भजो रे सदा जपो रे
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 राम नाम तारकं सदा भजो रे
राम नाम तारकं सदा भजो रे
जानकी मनोहरं सदा भजो रे
जानकी मनोहरं सदा भजो रे
मारुति संसेवितं सदा जपो रे
मारुति संसेवितं सदा जपो रे
राम नाम तारकं सदा भजो 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 रे
राम 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 कोदंड रामा
राम 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 कोदंड रामा
राम 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 पट्टाभिरामा
राम 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 पट्टाभिरामा
राम 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 कल्याण रामा
राम 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 कल्याण रामा
राम नाम तारकं सदा भजो रे
राम नाम तारकं सदा भजो रे
सदा भजो रे सदा जपो रे
सदा भजो रे सदा जपो रे
राम नाम तारकं सदा भजो रे
राम नाम तारकं सदा भजो रे
जानकी मनोहरं सदा भजो रे
जानकी मनोहरं सदा भजो रे
मारुति संसेवितं सदा जपो रे
मारुति संसेवितं सदा जपो रे
राम नाम तारकं सदा भजो 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 रे
राम 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 कोदंड रामा
राम 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 कोदंड रामा
राम 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 पट्टाभिरामा
राम 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 पट्टाभिरामा
राम 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 कल्याण रामा
राम 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 कल्याण रामा
राम नाम तारकं सदा भजो रे
राम नाम तारकं सदा भजो रे
सदा जपो रे
सदा जपो रे
सदा भजो रे
सदा भजो रे
सदा जपो रे
सदा जपो रे
We'll start with the opening phrase. We still don't have a project, so hopefully we'll have it in some time. So until then, either repeat after me, or if you don't know, just we'll do 3 ohms. शांति शांति
राम रामेति
मधुरं मधुराक्षरम्
मधुरं मधुराक्षरम्
आरुह्य कविताशाखाम्
आरुह्य कविताशाखाम्
वन्दे वाल्मीकिकोकिलम्
वन्दे वाल्मीकिकोकिलम्
मनोजवं मारुततुल्यवेगम्
मारुततुल्यवेगम्
जितेन्द्रियं
जितेन्द्रियम्
बुद्धिमतां वरिष्ठम्
बुद्धिमतां वरिष्ठम्
वातात्मजं
वातात्मजम्
वानरयूथमुख्यं
वानरयूथमुख्यम्
श्रीरामदूतं
श्रीरामदूतं
शिरसा नमामि.
शिरसा नमामि.
Very good. So, last class we saw the arrival of sage Vishwamitra. We also saw the overall history of how sage Vishwamitra became a sage in the first place. He was a king by name Kaushika, and what was his journey that led to him becoming a sage. We also saw how in this case, in spite of the different obstacles that he faced, many of which being his own weakness, whether it be anger, whether it be desire, whether it be compassion. There were some stories in there where out of compassion he wants to help some people. In some cases, out of sheer competition, he wants to try and show somebody that he can do better. All of these were nothing but mental weakness in some way, shape or form that this sage was undergoing. And just in his attempt to try to prove himself, at each stage, it was like a game of snakes and ladders. At each stage, just when he thought he had reached a certain milestone and he had gotten some powers, he will come back to base. But he showed great persistence. He showed great humility to continue to persevere, and ultimately he realized that the only way he could reach that stage where he could be called a Brahma Rishi and be the equal of Vasishtha was not by trying to outdo him, because at that stage there is no duality. There is no such thing as two people, one is greater than the other. So he had to really find a way to cleanse his own mental weakness to be able to get that stage. So finally, with all of that history that went through, this sage, finally, this king ultimately becomes a Brahma Rishi. Now this sage, Vishwamitra, as he will now be referred to, just like we now refer to sage Valmiki, we don't talk about his past and what he was. This sage Vishwamitra now enters the kingdom of Ayodhya. The guards announce and they bring sage Vishwamitra to the king. Now when Vishwamitra enters it, King Dasharatha is overjoyed, because it is considered a great honor for a sadhu, a sannyasi who has renounced everything in the world to come to the house of a king or to a grihastha. In those days, such was the respect that was given to people who had nothing by way of possession. So respect was not just based on bank balance or how many houses one had or what type of cars people were having or roaming around with. It was purely a function of the level of tapas and what the kind of service they were in, because these people were doing nothing for themselves. All of their actions was only for the worldly good. So they were given the highest status by all the other, and we talk about the caste system briefly. So by all the other castes, these people were considered great not because they knew Sanskrit or they could chant some mumbo jumbo, but it was because they had reached that level of tapas and all their actions were directed to the highest good. So when sage Vishwamitra comes, it is said that King Dasharatha offered him his own throne, and he said, "You sit in my throne." And he offers him arghya, he gives him water, he washes his feet, he does like a paduka puja for him. And he says, "I am so blessed, it feels like, a person who has lost something so valuable finally has gained it. What kind of happiness that person would feel? Such is the happiness I am feeling now when I see you in my kingdom. I know somebody like you would not normally just walk in. I'm sure there is a good reason. But I'm so overjoyed today at having seen you here, I am willing to give anything that you want. Now we will see this, King Dasharatha, for all his greatness and all his good qualities, had this habit of writing blank checks often to people, making promises, and sometimes it has come back to bite him. But right now we will see what happens. So he says, you tell me what brings you here, I would, whatever you want, I am willing to give it to you. Sage Vishwamitra is also extremely overjoyed. He says, you come from such a noble race of the Ikshwaku clan. You have had ancestors who have done great sacrifices. So it is very evident that you are a worthy descendant in that clan. And I am so glad that you have come and offered me this respect. Let me tell you why I have come. And yes, I do want a favor. That is why I have come. So I am going to now tell you why that is. He then starts to say, I am performing a yaga in Siddhashram. This yaga, or like a puja, usually a yaga in those days was like a big massive undertaking and endeavor, where they would gather a big, they would call it a homakunda, so it's like almost like a pit, and in that pit they will offer different oblations and different offerings, usually to fire, because in those days nature was worshipped as deity, as gods themselves, right? So the fact that the sun is rising, we worship the sun. Fire, it protects us, we worship fire. Water, we treat it with respect. So in those days, they did not need external representations. The minds were so pure that they were able to worship nature. So in that fire worship that he was doing, or a yaga that he was doing, he says, as I am doing that yaga, I have these Rakshasas that are floating around. And these Rakshasas end up putting meat, they end up putting all kinds of unholy things into that fire sacrifice. But because that place has to have such high level of purity and sanctity when we do something, the moment they put things like this, then the whole yaga goes to waste and we have to restart it again. I have been doing this now for a while, all my rishis have been doing this, but these Rakshasas are increasingly now no longer just a nuisance, they are not allowing this yaga to proceed. So I have come here to ask for help. Okay. Now, before we go into what is the help, etc., let's understand a little bit about how this whole thing actually works. Now, we know that there are 4 castes that is often referred to. We use the word caste in Sanskrit, the term is varna. Anybody knows what are those 4 varnas or castes? Has anyone heard of them? Children? Any one or more? So one is called Brahmana. Any others? Anyone remember this? Vaishya is another. Kshatriya and Shudra. Right? Now, of course, in modern times, these terms have been have gotten associated with them very incorrect meanings, and over time these have been interpreted in ways that have not been very helpful for Sanatana Dharma. But originally these had very simple meanings. It did not matter where you were born from. Varna literally means color, so it actually meant a combination of what your mental color is or what your mental temperament is. If you are the kind of person who's naturally attracted to knowledge, and for you the main purpose of what you want to do is predominantly to gain knowledge, to share knowledge, and that's what your focus is, then fundamentally you are a Brahmana. Right? If you are a leader by nature, you want to start big projects and you want to go and create big undertakings, generally for the greater good, then those people were referred to as Kshatriya. You had great leadership qualities, you could organize people, you could start big projects, then you were a Kshatriya. If your focus is predominantly economic, how can I take this, make it into a big venture? I start one company, I start a startup now, I can now I can now expand into other countries, I can create new products, and if he's buying that, I can also make him, I can also sell that, then I'm fundamentally a Vaishya. And then if I'm the kind of person who, I don't have any such thing, I just want a life of comfort, but I'm ready to work for it, I'm alright with that, then that was fundamentally Shudra. So it was not one was greater or inferior to the other. All of these 4, when working together, because you need all people, all kinds of people. There are only so many CEOs. If you want everybody in a company of 1 million people, everybody to become a CEO, it will not work. If everybody wants to become head of delivery in an IT organization, it will not work. So everybody has clear roles, but when everybody contributes, everybody's contribution is equally important. So in this case, the Brahmana who's doing a yaga, he's not doing it for himself or his family or his wife and his children. He's doing that for the greater good. That is his duty, that's his role in society. He comes and asks the king, you have to give me protection. It is your duty as a king to protect the yaga that is happening in your province, in your country. Because this is not for me, it is for the welfare of the general good. The Vaishyas are supposed to be the economic engine that will provide all the fruits and the flowers and the honey and all the infrastructure necessary for it. And the Shudras and the normal people will come there, maybe set up the tent, because the rishis may not be good at doing all those logistical things. So all people contribute together, and the benefits that accrue from this, everybody shares, everybody does their best, and they get what they can from it. So this whole concept of yaga or yajna had a very, while it was physically, you could look at it as people are chanting some verses and throwing things here. It had a very deep significance that each person does what he's good at. If I am good with furniture, then I can, and I'm good with woodwork, I will come there and support what is needed in the yagashala on that front. Somebody is good at sweeping and cleaning, I will go into. Does not mean one is superior or inferior. We all do what we are good at, and we all feel that mental purity because that has contributed. So, but over time, of course, things got convoluted, as things often happen, and we started to say, if you are born as the son of a king, then you should be a king. But of course, the rest, of course, is history. But just knowing the original intent helps us understand and helps us figure out how we can use this to our advantage going forward and for the welfare of the common good. So now Vishwamitra tells him, so I have come here and I need your help. Specifically, I need your eldest son Rama to come in and protect this yajna. So he says something like, Swaputram Rajashar Bhulam Ramam Satya Parakramam Kakapaksha Dharam Shuram Jeshtam Me Datu Marhasi. Jeshtam. So your eldest son Rama, please send him with me so that he can protect this yajna. So imagine you're a father, you're a mother, somebody comes to you and says, a small request, I need your son. Why? Need to take him for war against Rakshasas. Please send. Very simple request. How will your parents say, come beta, uncle is asking to go with me. Please go. Will it work that way? So, the moment he said that, Dasharatha for a minute actually just swooned. He had made all these great promises. He was so happy. He was telling him, I will follow everything that you will say. I will. The moment he said that, Dasharatha was not sure he heard it correct. But he then still goes on, and he actually first faints. So they kind of wake him up saying, it's all right, let him complete. Vishwamitra then tells Dasharatha, you have no reason to fear. I know your son and his prowess much better than you do. Why is that? He's never met Rama. So how can he claim that he knows Rama and his prowess better? He says that's because, Dasharatha, you are looking at your son from the eyes of a parent. So for you, you only see him as your lotus-eyed son. I am looking at him from the lens of tapas. I know his real nature. I know his true potential. Don't let your limited vision color your view of what Rama can do. So he then describes that that's the first time Ravana is introduced in this section here. Although they kind of talk about him earlier when the Devas had all gone to Narayana. He says these two people who are destroying and spoiling this yaga are Maricha and Subahu. These are like two henchmen or paid gundas of Ravana. And then he briefly describes Ravana is creating a lot of agony around, and these two people are generally creating anguish for sages and saints and cows, because they know that if that engine is affected, then good deeds cannot be done and overall society will come into hardship. So please send him in. And he says, I know Rama's true valor, I know his true potential. You do not let your putra sneham, your attachment to your son, blind you or delude you in terms of what needs to be done. Right? So he says, Aham Vedmi Mahatmanam Ramam Satya Parakramam. He says, ask your, you've got 8-9 advisors, right? Vasishtopi Mahateja Ye Cheme ye cheme tapasi stitaha. Ask them, because Vasishtha, all these rishis know, because they are all Brahma rishis, they understand the true power of Rama. So don't just take my word. You have a group of advisors. You please ask them, and with that, you please send your eldest son Rama. Now Dasharatha is completely he's like checkmate right now. He has made a promise. He cannot get out of it. And the more Vishwamitra tries to explain to him the dangers involved, it is not really helping strengthen Dasharatha's. He can, these people, such great asuras and rakshasas. So Dasharatha starts when he first kind of responds, and then he says, Una shodasha varsho me Ramo Rajiva Lochana na yuddha yogyatamasya pashyami saha rakshasaihi. So he says some very simple words. He says, my son Rama is not even 16 years of age. So they say at that age, Rama was about 12 years, is what the commentators say. Rama was barely 12 years. So why is it that he says 16? Because normally 16 was the age when you're ready to actually go into battle, and it's like driving license, right? Say I'm not even 18, you can't get a license. So he says, my son Rama is not even Shodasha, he's not even 16. He's a small boy. Okay? Rama Rajiva Lochana. His eyes are like lotus. What does that mean? This Rama, lotus, when does it wake up? Early in the morning for sunrise. And usually when sunset, the lotus closes. So my Rama's eyes are also like that. He is not used to staying up at night. Whereas these Rakshasas you are talking about, they only start night shift. They only come at that time and their shift starts then. My Rama will be half asleep, then he's not used to staying up late. He's a very obedient son. He's like a good boy. I cannot get him to come in and fight these Rakshasas because he will not be awake at the time when they usually operate. He also uses Shodasha Varsho Me. So the word Me is usually used to indicate anything that is mine. So in the past, there was even now in Yaga you may often see they say, if you are offering something, say Indraya Swaha Idam Na Mama. To Idam Na Mama literally means this is not mine, it belongs to you. So anything that is offered in a yaga, the whole purpose is not what you put in, it is to indicate that I am not holding on to it. So here Dasharatha partly indicates by saying, if I call this Me, it's my Rama, then Vishwamitra cannot take him, because then as a giver I have not given it correctly. He tries to sneak that. This is my Rama, whose eyes are like lotus. He says he is not Yogyatamase, he is not fit, because he is used to fighting everything by rules, right? He does not do cheating. Whereas these Rakshasas, they always tweak the rules, they will do things that are not in the correct way. How will he possibly do it? So he says, please, I don't think my Rama is qualified. He tries to offer that argument. He then says, I, Dasharatha, I got this name, this title, Dasharatha, 10 directions I can take my Ratha in, because I supported Indra in a war between the Devas and the Asuras many years ago. At that stage, I was given this boon and I helped Indra win this war. So I know this is a tough battle, but I will offer my entire army at your disposal. You want this problem to go away, I am not taking that away. I will help you remove it. If need be, I will personally come with my army to come and remove it, but please don't ask for my son Rama. Okay? Now Vishwamitra is listening to all this, and you can imagine what kind of a person Vishwamitra is, right? So, from anger level 1, it has gone to anger level 3, slowly anger level 5. So, it's like with every argument that Dasharatha is giving, it is like putting fire in a yaga. Little by little, the fire is slowly coming out, right? He's kind of looking there, and he's kind of listening, processing, but he's not reacting because he knows what happened last time when he got angry. He went back to 0. So he's kind of holding back and not to give any curse or anything, right? So he also then says, I have waited so many years. Dasharatha at that time, they say, was 60,000 years old at that stage. He said, I had to win out. Don't ask how were people living. We're talking about a very different yuga, where the average age, etc., people were living much longer. He said, I have lived 60,000 years, after which I was blessed with a son. And in 60,000 years, after waiting now, 12-year-old Rama, my little boy, the apple of my eye, you are now asking him, you are taking him away from me. So it does not sound fair. Right? He also says, even if I do not see my Rama for even 1 hour, my eyes are filled with tears. Okay? It almost feels to be like my life is ebbing away from me, is moving away from me. That's the kind of emotion I have when my Rama is not around with me. And you are taking him away from me. So please don't take him away. So anger level 1, 3, 5, slowly rising. Okay, you can see where you are. Finally, after all these arguments, he says, I dare not give him to you. In fact, I will not give him to you. Naiva dasyami putrakam. So after he gave all this argument, he then puts his head down and he says, I am sorry, I cannot give Rama to you. Okay? There's a very uncomfortable pause now in the entire assembly. Because the king who made all these promises, Vishwamitra has not said anything. He has put his arguments first. He then, Vishwamitra is clearly angry and he knows that there is no point of cursing or anything. Vishwamitra says, very good. The word, I thought when I came here, I am talking to someone who is from this Ikshvaku race who are known to keep their promises. I will now go out there and put a big board that if you are looking for a person who says something but will not do it, please come to the kingdom of Dasharatha, because here is a person that is his brand. He will make promises, he will tell you he will do it and then he will not do it. That will be your title. Because you have come, you have made this promise and you are not doing it. Right? And he says, Sukhi Bhava, you live happily with your children and your family. I am going away. Right? Did he literally mean Sukhi Bhava? Did he literally mean live happily? He was in that state of anger. There was sarcasm coming out of him to say, okay, you love your son so much and your family, you please live happily with all of them. Right? Now, at this stage, Dasharatha is still not in any mood to give. He is confused, he is anguished, and he is not sure what to do. At this stage, Vasishtha intervenes. Okay? Vasishtha comes, and Vasishtha is, remember, he is not just a royal rishi of Ayodhya. Vasishtha is also the mentor, he is a preceptor, he is an advisor to Dasharatha. He is someone Dasharatha trusts a lot. Because in difficult situations, should I do this, should I do that, what is right as per dharma? Sometimes when we are too attached to a situation, we are not able to see things clearly. So at that time, having someone who can think, almost like nowadays a lot of CEOs have their own coach. Startup founders have their own coach. So these people like the board of directors effectively for Dasharatha, Vasishtha intervenes and says 2 things. First of all, he says, the fact that Vishwamitra is coming here does not mean that he cannot address or destroy these Rakshasas. For Vishwamitra, these Rakshasas are like blades of grass. Okay? So he's not coming here out of inadequacy or because he is helpless. He is coming here because there is a bigger reason. He is coming here as he is doing you a favor. He is here to honor you and your son Rama, because he says, in a way, he says, if you look at Rama's CV for 12 years, there is, CV resume you write. There is nothing you can write in his resume, because Rama, by the time, like in Krishna's case, by the time he was 12, he had killed Putana, he had done so many different things. He had gone stolen butter. His CV was full, a very colorful CV. Rama's CV was, Mummy said this, yes, I will do it. Daddy said that, yes, I will do it. Rama is only being obedient boy. You cannot write that in a CV. Rama has no achievements in his name. So he is here to help Rama get those achievements. Right? He is here to help Rama achieve his full potential. So don't think that Vishwamitra is here because he cannot do it on his own. So he is here actually to help and start to show Rama and help Rama tap into his full potential. He then says, you are an embodiment of dharma, right? Your whole clan, your whole ancestors, everybody, you are also called as a dharmatma, which means your word is more important than your own life, let alone your own son. Okay? Such was the value attributed, not just because you are a king, but in those times in our culture, truth, tapas we said at the start, these had such strong foundation. These were not just words say, yeah, I said it, but you know what, I didn't quite mean it, I did like this or whatever. And then, so I did pinky finger. No. If you have said something, then that words have such power and strength because that comes from a certain level of mental purity. And what happens is over time, when you stick to your words, it also happened in the case of Mahatma Gandhi, right? I mean, you kind of say that he was also so inspired by some of that. Because what then happens is when you follow your words so strongly, then your words start to become reality. So when they say that the rishi cursed and something happened, we also say so many things. This happened. But why our words have no value? Because that doesn't come back by the same level of mental purity. In this case, you see, in those times, it was backed by such level of mental purity that when you say something, that thing will actually happen. So he says, you cannot go back on your word. It does not befit your lineage, and it does not befit dharma. So your duty as a king here is, you have given your word, and even if you did not give your word, we just discussed, as a king, your duty is to protect the sages and the rishis for things they are doing in your kingdom. There is no question. They have come, you have to do it. Whether you like it or don't like it has little consequence in the scheme of things. When Dasharatha hears this from his own minister, his own preceptor, it then dawns upon him that okay, he can now start to see things clear. So two things help. One, it was clear for him what his own role is and what he should do, what is right or wrong. And the other thing was also the fact that if Vishwamitra is taking Rama, it is not because he cannot do it, it's because there is something good coming, but obviously Vishwamitra cannot. This is a 10-day yaga, so he knew it was not like a 2-3 year project or anything. It's a very short project. He then falls at the feet of Vishwamitra and tells him, I am sorry, blinded by my attachment to my son, Putra Sneha, I spoke things that I should not have. I seek your forgiveness. Please. He calls Rama, and with Rama, always who's Rama's shadow? Lakshmana. So with Rama, he says, bonus offer, with Rama, Lakshmana will also come. And the three of them start to leave from there with Vishwamitra. And only thing Dasharatha tells Rama is, Rama, Vishwamitra here, for all intents and purposes, is like your father. So whatever I would have said, if you obey, do not question whatever Vishwamitra says, you obey and you carry. So the three of them, Vishwamitra going in the front and the two boys walking, with different colors, there are different ways in which it is described, almost like a three-headed serpent. Some say it is like Shiva walking with his two sons, Ganesha and Kartikeya. There are different descriptions given by poets on how that scene looked when this very majestic rishi, who is himself a king in the first place and now a rishi, walking with these two boys, almost like a grandfather with two grandchildren, walking from there, and they slowly leave the palace, and he says, we will be back. Now, as they go from there, they first reach the banks of river Sarayu, which is at the banks of Ayodhya, at the border of Ayodhya where they are. And at that night, obviously now these princes have always been used to sleeping in nice, comfortable beds. So first of all, Vishwamitra tells Rama, before it is sunset, I will teach you two very powerful mantras, Bala and Ati Bala. Bala literally means strength. He says, if you know these mantras are so powerful, you will not feel hunger, you will not feel fatigue, tiredness, none of that, and these will protect you. So today what we pop pills and vitamins, etc., in those days, a lot of that was encoded in shlokas and mantras, because mantras are nothing but sound symbols that are adjusted in certain ways so we can tap into respective powers from the universe. So he teaches Ram and Lakshmana those mantras, and then he lays a small mat of kusha grass. So for the first time, both these princes who have never been used to kind of sleeping outside, very comfortably sleeping. Imagine nice 12-year-old boys sleeping with in the banks of river Sarayu, and that night ends there. Okay? Now the next morning, early in the morning, it's time for them to leave. The sun is just about to rise, and Vishwamitra is waking up Rama. How will he wake up Rama? How does your mummy or daddy wake you up? Come on, bus will come. Homework. Isn't it? Absolutely. Still sleeping, what's going on? Vishwamitra doesn't say, he doesn't say it's 11 plus, come on Rama, you're 12, exam will come, you have to give 11 plus exam. No, he doesn't say that. He starts with a very beautiful mantra, many of you may have heard it. He says, Kaushalya Supraja Rama Purva Sandhya Pravartate Uttishta Narashardhula Kartavyam Daivamanhikam. Some of you may have heard this shloka as part of the Venkatesha Suprabhatam, but it's originally from the Valmiki Ramayana. But literally he says Kaushalya Supraja Rama. He addresses Ram saying, you are the son of Kaushalya. Okay? Purva Sandhya. It is dawn. It is about to be morning and the signs of the sun rising in the east are very evident. So, O tiger among men, please wake up. Why do you wake up? He says, you wake up to do your duties. So again, duty is so embedded throughout, not just the Ramayana, but in our culture then, that you don't wake up to say, what will I get, what's in it for me? No, you wake up, your whole life is there to do your duty. And what was the duty? The first thing we worship is the sun god. So, you take this water and you'll often have seen sages, etc. offer that. It's called arghya. Even today, people who wear the sacred thread, they do the Gayatri Japa and they offer the arghya. But the whole purpose is, you wake up and because the sun is doing the sun's duty by rising, everything in nature is doing its duty. You, human being, wake up, you do your duty. Right? So he says, you wake up because it's time now to offer. So Rama and Lakshmana both wake up. And from there on, they start to move from there. They kind of pass through another ashram called Kamashram. This was the same place many years ago where Shiva was doing tapas after Sati had been, Sati had kind of, effectively she had taken her own life because her father insulted her and Shiva. This comes in a different part of the story, we won't go there today. But after that whole incident, Shiva was doing tapas and then the Devas send Kamadev to go there and effectively get Shiva out of that tapas because they had to fight a war and they needed a son from Shiva to be able to do that, and that's when Shiva Parvati wedding happened. But at that stage, when Shiva opens his third eye to see who destroyed or who disturbed my tapas, then that affected this Kamadev and he was without a body, Ananga as they say, for a period of time. So in all of that, they pass through that. They then the sages at Kamashram they stay with them. Next morning they take a boat and they pass through the river Ganga. And now as they are passing through the river Ganga, Rama suddenly sees that the river Ganga is very beautiful, but at one stage we see the forest and the whole scene changes. It's like a dark, dense forest. Even the sounds emanating from the forest and the beetles and the birds, it's not like the normal cooing of the bird. It's very shrill cry. It feels like the rays of the sun don't even enter. It's dark, damp, dense. And he says, this place looks very different. Why is that so? And Vishwamitra says, this is the place where the demoness Tataka, he briefly speaks about how Tataka came to be, but effectively Tataka was a Rakshasi who was known to have the strength of 1,000 elephants. They say that she had killed 1,000 elephants, taken their skeletons. You can imagine how big the skeleton of one elephant is. She had taken the skeleton of 1,000 elephants, put it around herself like a mala, and that mala only came up to her waist. So you can imagine what height and size she was. But this Tataka was there, and she was the one who had completely effectively made that whole forest into a place where even flowers would not blossom, trees would not have any, would not bear any fruits. And he was saying, this Tataka is the mother of Maricha and Subhamu who are also destroying her. And Rama, your duty, one of your first tasks is to destroy this demon Tataka. He also adds, he said, you might feel that how can a man attack a woman, right? But he says, don't be misguided by that, because a woman and a man is not just based on physical appearances. A woman symbolizes forgiveness, symbolizes peace, symbolizes spreading happiness. This is the kind of person, although she physically may have the appearance of a woman,
but the acts that she do not qualify her to be called a woman. So she has no gender. You have to come there, and when she comes, do not hesitate. Please shoot her and kill her. And Rama says, from my perspective, there are no two ways about it. Because my father sent me with you saying, for all intents and purposes, you are our preceptor. So if you say something, there is no question of me asking you, telling me, prove it to me, give me logic. No. You tell me, I take your word for it, and I know that you will tell me what is right as per dharma. So if they go into that forest, just by the clang of Rama's bow, Tataka gets awakened because nobody has dared enter that place. Such was her power and strength. And she starts hurling mud and stones, etc. And the two brothers try to defend it for a while. And then Vishwamitra says, it's becoming it's about to sunset. Don't spend any more time, because as the sun sets, her power will only increase. Don't hesitate. Rama pulls an arrow, brings it as close to his ear as possible, gives one mark at her, and with that arrow, Tataka, the demoness, is destroyed. And when they wake up next morning, of course they kind of then sleep there, they can see a visible difference in that forest. With just that Rakshasi dead, the plants that were not able to blossom, the trees that were not able to flower, slowly that whole look and feel, the whole environment starts to change. So there they kind of kill Tataka. They then proceed towards this place called Siddhashram, where Vishwamitra is actually performing his yaga. Now, Siddhashram is the same place where, if some of you are aware of the Vamana avatar, one of the 10 avatars of Vishnu, the place where Vamana, that avatar, was born was in Siddhashram. So Vishwamitra is performing the yaga at the same place. We'll see the story of Vamana at a later stage. Don't want to kind of digress there. But the rishis are very pleased. They say we've got another 6 more days of this yaga to be going. Vishwamitra will now not speak, because again, one part of mental purity is control on speech. So now Vishwamitra has kept a vow of silence. He will be performing the yaga. They tell the two brothers, your job is to rotate, just like the army will be rotating around. And if you see them, make sure that you attack and you destroy them. So the two brothers, for 5 days, 5 nights, without sleeping, without rest, they are circling, no event. 6th day has come. Now Rama is sure that now these asuras these Rakshasas will not wait anymore. Now is the time they will come. And exactly as they expected, suddenly the sky changes, just like when thunder is coming, before rain comes, there's a thunderstorm and loud sounds, and the sky getting dark, and they can start to feel that the whole environment changing. Maricha and Subahu, who are the two sons of Tataka, had no clue that defense had been organized for them. So they just come hoping that, as usual, we'll come at the final moment, we'll put some meat into it, whole thing will go back to waste, and then off we go. But then Rama takes one astra, he shoots it at Maricha, who, with the power of that astra, is so strong that Maricha, they say, goes something like 100 yojana. 1 yojana is about 4.5 miles. So he's flung into the sea, almost 450 miles away, but he's not killed. Because Maricha has a role to play later, which we will see at a later stage. With another astra, he kills Subahu and the rest of the army of the Rakshasas. So the rishis are extremely pleased that the boys have done what they came here to do. The yaga completes successfully. Vishwamitra is extremely pleased and says, Siddhashram today has actually become Siddhashram. Siddha literally means to achieve something. This is after a long time, since we have not been able to perform and complete this yaga. Today, with the Lord's grace and Rama, with your help, we have been able to complete it. And he blesses him with many more astras and knowledge of different missiles, I can call it in a way, how to use them, how to invoke them, how to bring them back, because these are not just, it's not just taking an arrow and throwing it away. When you take that same arrow and chant a certain mantra, on that it acquires a very different power. So he teaches them all of that. And then he says, we are done, this yaga is now finished. We are now going to go, I've heard that King Janaka is holding, he's got an event happening in Mithilapuri, which in those days is like almost today's present day Nepal, is where Janakpuri was or Mithila was. He says we will be going there, but along the way, when we go there, obviously the children will get to hear a few more stories. So we will pause here today with the slaying of Tataka, Maricha and Subahu. And next class we will say on the way to Mithila what stories the children hear. But we will conclude.
Hari Om. How was the story today? I think Balakantam is again, like we discussed last week, is a very wonderful part of Ramayana with all these, very enriching stories of Lord Rama's Valor. Because in Ayodhya Kantam, the subject is going to be slightly different, which is extremely interesting as it is. But this is where we also get to see a lot of other stories, right? Stories of Tataka, stories of Vishwamitra, and there are more stories coming up next week as well. Yeah? Let's maybe take a couple of minutes to just reflect over what we discussed today. So, I don't think we had as many characters as we had last week that I can take a vox populi who all wants to be a Shabada cow and so on, right? I don't know how many of some of us were in there last week, I suppose. So perhaps I'll just open it up for the audience. Any reflections, any interesting thoughts on what we discussed today? Because I have noted a few points. Yeah? One thing I can think of just to give it a start is, again, Adhiti Devo Bhava. When Vishwamitra comes over to Ayodhya, he gets greeted, he gets paid with a respect, in the typical sense of Adhiti Devo Bhava, which we also saw last week. We also saw it in the first class, right? Which, any other reflection, like something that you felt, okay, this character could have played it, Dasharatha could have played it a little better. If I was Dasharatha, this is how I would have handled the situation. Any such, or for that matter, if I was Tataka, this is what I would have done. Any such thoughts at all? Yeah. Be careful with what you promise is one of the points that I have noted down. Don't get sort of, don't put yourself in a situation. See, Vishwamitra would certainly have found out a way to take Rama away from Dasharatha. That's for sure. But at least from Dasharatha's side, he still could have been careful with what he had promised. Yeah. Of course, then worship the nature, because as Krishnan uncle pointed out, the yajna is all about worshipping nature, worshipping the fire god, worshipping the water god. Yeah. So they are our deities. So can anybody think of any deity's name, any devta's name? Anybody?
Children, come on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, go ahead. Varuna. Okay, brilliant. Anyone else? Guys, come on. Agni is one other god that I can think of. Sorry? Vayu, that's air god. Varuna is rain god. Agni is fire god. So all the nature's elements are coming in here, isn't it? Sun god, absolutely sun god. Even Dharti, the Prithvi, even that is prayed as. So these are all the different gods and goddesses who are worshipped in these yajnas. So this way, I mean, there are different points that I could really see, but what I would encourage you all to do in the next class is also sort of, come forward and share your thoughts of what you think that was discussed in the story that day. Yeah? Absolutely no compulsions or anything, just feel free, make it. The last 10 minutes is all for us to make it a group discussion. Yeah? It's not a monologue. Can we do that next week, for sure? I don't know if we are meeting next week, we'll convey. Oh, it's there, okay, brilliant. Okay, so I think what we will do the same as we did last week, which is to chant a couple of shlokas. We will be doing this each week. We will move on to subsequent shlokas as well. So, Saket, can you come forward and chant the 2 shlokas slowly, audibly? So he will chant and all of us will repeat after him. Yeah?
Tapaswadhyaya niratam.
Tapaswadhyaya niratam.
Tapasvi vakpitambaram.
Tapasvi vakpitambaram.
Naradam paripaprascha.
Naradam paripaprascha.
Valmikir munipungavam.
Valmiki Ramayana.
Manashadav pratishthantvam.
Manishadav pratishthantvam.
Agamas Saraswati Samaha.
Agamas Saraswati Samaha.
Yat Krauncha Mituna De Ekam.
Yat Krauncha Mituna Ekam.
Avati Kama Mohitam.
Avadi Kama Mohitam.
So closing prayers. So all of us can chant together. Yeah, together. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Thank you.
School.